I'm Czesław Kiński.
And I am Jacek Łagód.
And today we're going to talk about one of the world's most common fears.
It's not really surprising that a lot of people are afraid of snakes.
Or spiders.
What is a bit unusual, though, is that some people, actually quite a big number of people, are afraid of mirrors.
And it's quite common to find people who are afraid of traveling by plane.
But one of the most common fears that some people might find quite unusual is the fact that a lot of us are afraid of public speaking.
And that's why today we're going to talk about how to prepare for this, because we think that getting prepared is probably the best way to overcome your fears. So we're going to show you how to speak and what to say.
So let's watch a video of two teenagers who are going to present in what way you're supposed to talk.
And we have a little task for you. While you watch the video, please decide in which order the following appear and make a note of what the speakers say about each of them.
We all have to speak in public sometimes. Maybe we need to give our ideas or answers to the rest of the class.
At university, students often have to give presentations to show they understand something.
At work, we may need to explain something to a group of colleagues or your bosses.
Here are some of our ideas to help you give a good impression in these situations.
First of all, stand up straight. When you stand up straight, you look confident and secure.
Use hand gestures, but not too much, otherwise they won't be listening to what you're saying, they'll be looking at your hands.
Look up at the people you're speaking to. This can help you keep their attention. It can also help you see if they're interested and understand.
Speak at the right volume. Not too loud or they might be uncomfortable, but not too quiet either. Otherwise they won't understand what you're saying.
So, in the video first, they talked about the body posture and how you need to stand up straight to look confident.
And then they also mentioned using hands and that you have to use gestures, but not too much.
Finally, they told you to use your eyes. Keep looking at your audience so that you help them pay attention to you.
And now, we'd like you to watch the second part of the video and again do a little task. And decide which 4 of these ideas appear in the recording.
Speak fluently. This means don't stop all the time. If you speak too slowly, people may lose interest. But speaking fluently doesn't mean speaking fast. If you speak too fast, it can be difficult for people to understand you. If you speak too fast, it can be difficult for people to understand you.
Use intonation and stress to make yourself sound more interesting. If you speak like this, with no ups and downs, you can be seen as uninterested or uninteresting. By giving stress and emphasis on important words, you may get your message across easier.
Of course, these are all things you need to remember in the middle of giving your talk. But remember, always prepare carefully of what you're going to say before your talk.
So, we hope you've got these 4 ideas.
Don't speak too fast.
Speak fluently.
Use intonation.
Don't speak too loud.
So, we've looked at a few ideas on how to behave during a presentation. And now, we'd like to tell you about what to do to make a presentation more interesting.
And we think, it's going to be less scary to speak to people if you can get them interested in what you're going to say.
So, we're going to give you a few ideas as for how to begin your presentation, how to develop it, and how to end it.
So here are 3 ideas on how to start a presentation.
You can begin your presentation with a meaningful quote that is to do with the topic of a presentation.
Or you can involve your listeners by asking them a direct question.
You can also tell them a story, a personal story if you wish, that will introduce the problem you want to present.
Okay, so let's start with how you can use quotes to open the presentation. Now imagine you must prepare a presentation on one of the following topics: food, education, or the environment. And now here are 3 quotes which you could possibly use to start your presentation. Now we have some time, and please match the quotes with the topics. The next way in which you could begin a presentation is by asking your audience a personal question. This may create a feeling of connection between you and them and get them more involved.
You can even ask them to react in a certain way by raising their hand or any other way that you will find useful at that particular moment.
And now, once again, we have a little task for you. Please take a look at 3 different questions which you could use to start a presentation and match the questions with the pictures that represent our topics. Another way in which you could start a presentation is by telling a story. And we think it's important to really start with the story without saying anything else before it. So you could start like this.
It was a dark January day. The weather had been gloomy for quite some time, and yet I had to go to school. I was angry, and I clearly remember wishing I could have stayed at home on that day. I was walking really slowly, hoping to miss the bus to school. And I was thinking to myself that it would be so much better to stay at home and do the classes online. It's the 21st century, I murmured to myself. Why do we still have to leave home and go to school every day? At that moment, I had no idea how lucky I was, that I was still able to go to school, to talk to my teachers face to face, and to shake hands with my friends.
So we hope you'll be listening carefully, because we have another task for you. So please take a look at these 3 sentences and decide if they're true or false. Alright, so we've looked at 3 ways in which you can begin a presentation, and now we'll give you one important piece of advice on how you can go on with the main part and develop your presentation.
Well, in the beginnings, we showed you an idea, or we gave you an idea how to introduce the topic of food in your presentation. So if you want to continue, you have to organize your presentation from the most important argument you want to make to the least important argument. If you want to talk about how food can be good for you, you might start with telling everyone how healthy food keeps you fit and energetic. Then you may, outline the idea that eating together with your family and friends helps you feel happy. And finally, you may talk about different kinds of food that keep you happier and more relaxed because of the chemicals they contain, like for example, chocolate.
Okay, so once again, whatever the subject of your presentation is, we think it's always a good idea to start with the strongest arguments first and then move to your other arguments, or perhaps start with something that's the most important thing and then move on to the less important things, or start with a description of the general picture and then move on to the details.
So now, let's talk about the endings.
We think it's a really good idea if your ending is somehow connected with your beginning, because it shows that what you wanted to say was really well planned.
So if you started your presentation with a quote, you can end with relating the quote to your audience and the present situation.
And if you started with the question, you can go back to this question and perhaps offer some kind of answer.
And finally, if you started with the story, you can finish the story and comment on its meaning.
So let's take a look at the first way in which you could finish a presentation. If you started with the quote, you can add something to it. Only when the last tree has died will we realize that we cannot eat money. So I hope you think twice before you print your next document.
And if your opening quote was "anything is good if it's made of chocolate," you can follow that with the words, "or is it? Maybe there are other things good for you."
Or if you started with the last quote, learn as if you were to live forever, you could just add every day.
If you started your presentation with a question, it's a good idea to finish it with the same question, but providing an answer or giving a thought or two on what you've just discussed. For example, if you started with the question, have you ever felt that what you're learning at school isn't really useful? You may finish by saying, well, now you realize that what isn't useful now may be useful in your near future.
Or if your question was, when was the last time you ate chocolate? You could follow this with, do you feel like having a piece of chocolate now?
And if you began with, do you know how much plastic your family throw away every day? You could finish by saying, well, actually, it's not that important what you did yesterday. Let's hope that tomorrow we'll throw away less.
The last way to finish your presentation is by referring back to the story you told at the beginning, like this.
I'm sitting at my computer waiting for the online lesson to begin. The weather is beautiful outside, but I'm not going to meet my friends at school because of the lockdown. Now I understand that school is important for many reasons. It's a place where I can learn about the world, but also start new relationships and have fun with my friends. We'd like to finish by saying that we know that public speaking is really, really stressful and that we understand how scary it can be at times.
But we also think it's very useful, and it's going to be useful while you're still at school. It's going to be useful when you go to university, and even more so in your adult life.
So maybe we should finish our lesson now.
Or maybe not. Let's just give you another quiz. Let's see how well you can remember the quotes from today. So please take a look at them and decide what the missing words are. And now it's time for the real end of our lesson.
We hope that your next presentation is not going to be scary at all.
Or actually, that it can even be lots of fun for you. Thank you.
Bye!
Bye.